Hey, Brian, you might want to mute your camera, unless you want to sit.
It's 3 o'clock.
Okay. All right. Welcome to the Finance Committee. It's 3 o'clock, the appointed time. This is the meeting number 5-25. It's being held in the Water Center and online. We welcome to all of our guests, both here and online. We certainly appreciate that. And I'm hoping that we have more guests in the Finance Committee meeting than Jeff has in the regular board meeting. Just a little competition there. All right. First item on the agenda is introductions and attendance.
Let's have, Madam Chair, let's have Jennifer do a roll of Finance Committee members.
I'm happy to. Chair Cole-Hansen.
Here.
Mr. Gibbs.
Here.
Mr. Raybould.
Here.
Mr. Stevenson.
Here.
Mr. Ben Stone.
Here.
And not in the committee, but Mr. Barker.
Here.
Mr. McMahon.
Here.
And Mr. Olmstead.
Here.
All right. Thank you, Jennifer. Do we want to do an introduction of our guests or will we?
I think.
Okay. All right. Next item on the agenda is the governor's executive order.
Yeah, Madam Chair, sure most people are aware at this point, but on August 15, 2025, Governor Little issued an executive order that requires a 3% holdback on all general fund spending. Okay, so that'll affect the department's operations budget, as well as money that goes to the Water Resource Board. So there's three buckets of money that come to the Water Resource Board that will be affected by that 3% holdback order. First is, of course, the $30 million that the legislature made an ongoing funding commitment this last year. With a 3% reduction of that $30 million, that becomes $29.1 million. So we'll be working with you to adjust your spending plans and budgets going forward. Second, also inside the water management account, you get an annual allocation of an annual appropriation, excuse me, of $1 million for flood management grants. That is also affected by the 3% budget holdback. So 30% of that is being returned, and that will turn into $970,000. Going into the secondary aquifer management fund, there is $5 million from general fund, and that is affected as well. So $150,000 from that $5 million is being returned, and so that $5 million turns into $4.85 million. So all told, your board's sending back, more than $1 million out of your water project and recharge monies as a result of the governor's executive order. There are also some other things in the executive order. There's some clauses about reviewing all boards and commissions and submitting that information back to the governor's office, reviewing department travel plans and travel policies, and some other some sweeping positions that have been vacant for some time. Things such as that the department is working on making sure all those things are put into place.
Will this executive order affect the board's ability to travel to different areas of the state for our meetings?
At this point, I'm going to say, Madam Chair, I'm going to say no. As long as the holdback stays at 3%, it will be manageable. If it goes deeper, though, if it cuts deeper in the future, then we may have to reevaluate those travel plans.
Thank you. Any questions about the governor's holdback initiative? Okay. Next item on the agenda, the groundwater to surface water conversion grants funding recommendations.
Okay, Madam Chair, Neely's gonna head up that discussion.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Patton. As you'll recall, on May 23rd, the board amended the water management account spending plan to create a $20 million budget for a groundwater to surface water conversion grants for projects within the Eastern Snake Plain Aquifer area of common groundwater supply. And criteria for that program was adopted at the May 23rd meeting as well. The application deadline was set for August 1st. Staff received a total of 15 applications requesting approximately $18.7 million in funding. There was a $5 million per application grant award limit. Staff has evaluated and ranked these applications according to the criteria. And I will put on the screen the scoring that staff developed for those. I have to zoom back in. For those 15 applications. You can see they, on the 100-point scale, they ran from 81 down to 45.
Excuse me, Neely, it's not showing on the screen.
Oh. Sorry about that. Now you should see that on your screen. You can see the 15 applications ranked from highest to lowest with their points. You can see that the Magic Valley Groundwater District Large Conversion Project was the highest scoring one. They were requesting 12 million. They have previously received 5 million through the previous round of grant funding. This 12 million would bring them up to the 50% cost share that is allowed through the newly adopted criteria. And you can see the ranking of the others totaling $18,686,936. This is the recommendation from staff, and the recommendation is that all of these be funded. And with that, staff will stand for any questions or discussion. And I have prepared a draft resolution here if you'd like to look at that. I know you will not be considering that today, but it will be considered on Friday.
Okay, committee members, are there any questions for Neely on these projects?
Madam Chair, Neely or Brian, is this affected by the 3%?
Madam Chair, Mr. Dale, it's a great question. These allocations would not be affected by the 3%, but you will have to mix and match these allocations within the water management account.
So in a way, it will be affected.
Yes, ultimately you would have 3% less out of this year's 30 million to allocate out.
So we'll have some impact to that.
It will have some impact at some point, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Madam.
Other board members?
Madam Chair. Is it worthwhile to suggest that we should be reducing the grants by 3%?
Madam Chair, Al, my recommendation at this point would be no. When we get to item number 5, when we talk about the water management account spending plan, that's where, and maybe we should have put that at the first part of the agenda, but that's where we'll talk about how to accommodate the 3% within the framework of all the other priorities that you have.
Yes.
So, Madam Chair, Brian, so we can accommodate this spend and still stay within our 3% budget by making other manipulations. I guess that's what Dale was asking, right?
Yes, that's the case.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Brian?
Madam Chair Neely, so the chart gives the ranking, and I understand all the criteria and everything, but it'd be really helpful for me if I'm talking to legislators, for instance, or some other group, to know how many CFS, how much volume of water each one of these would entail. It just kind of puts the money into perspective. I mean, I know like the Magic Valley Groundwater District's 100 CFS or something like that, but
That's a great request, and I think we can look into seeing if we can add that.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so I assume that each one of these, well, today we're looking for a recommendation to the full board to approve these projects. But before we go that far, that way, in that direction, each one of these will have a separate contract. Is that correct? That meets the criteria that spells out what the criteria is in the grant application. We said that you needed to show the reduction of so much groundwater in lieu of the surface water. Will that be stated in the contract for each of them? Okay. I just want to make sure that that everyone understands the purpose of the money is to reduce groundwater in lieu of surface water. So with that, I entertain a motion.
Madam Chairman, this is,
Chairman.
I have a question.
Mark's up.
Mark?
Will we have the CFS available by the Friday meeting?
Don't think so. That's gonna be difficult to dig out probably by Friday and put into this chart.
Okay, thank you.
I'm glad you spoke up, Mark. I almost forgot about you online there. Thank you. Okay,
Madam Chairman, for a motion. I move that we recommend to the full board groundwater to surface water conversion grant applications as listed in attachment A for funding.
I'll second that motion.
all right, it's been moved in second. Do we need a roll call vote?
You do not at this point.
Okay, so all in favor? Say
Aye.
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 Okay.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda, regional sustainability water project proposals.
Yeah, first up will be the Mountain Home Aquifer Stabilization project, and I think Amy's gonna lead off, and it looks like we have half a room full of people here to talk about that project.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I just have a really quick introduction to this next topic, as you will get a presentation here momentarily, but this next presentation is from a representative, Carrie Hill, on behalf of Elmore County. It sounds like there's some Elmore County folks in the room, so that's great. This is not a formal request for regional water sustainability project funds yet. This is more for informational purposes for the board and asking the board following this presentation to provide guidance or request additional information when they do submit a formal request for funding. So they are going to talk about the deficit that they are experiencing in the Mountain Home Plateau Aquifer. And I believe Carrie Hill will be giving that presentation. And just so you know, board members, I do not have a draft resolution in your materials because this is not a formal request yet.
Okay, welcome, Carrie. Go ahead and enlighten us.
Thank you, Madam Chair, committee members. I appreciate everybody's time today. Like she said, we won't ask for any money today, but we would like to introduce the Aquifer Stabilization Project and the three phases, this new approach. So with me today is Bud Corbis, Elmore County Commissioner.
Thank you for your time.
We have Eric Orr and Rachel Summers with the Mountain Home Irrigation District. We have, sorry, I should have started with on all the way here, sorry. And we have Dylan Lawrence, water rate attorney on behalf of Elmore County, and then Terry Scanlon, professional engineer and hydrogeologist on behalf of Elmore County, Trace Giles with the Mountain Home Air Force Base. So like she mentioned, the purpose of today is to just review the Elmore County's Aquifer Stabilization Project, where we're at to date, and then where we need to go. Just nod at you, I guess. That's fine. Sorry. It's estimated that approximately 80,000 acre feet of groundwater each year is being pumped out of the aquifer, with only 40,000 acre feet being recharged. So you have a estimated 40,000 acre foot annual deficit. These numbers will be refined by the Western Snake River Plain Aquifer model that we should have next year, hopefully, the WSPAM. So, but essentially we are drawing down on a bank account that's going to run out. And the water isn't just used for irrigation. Every drop of drinking water in the greater Mountain Home area comes from groundwater. So all of the municipal water and domestic supply comes from the groundwater. So how did we get here? The commissioners, Elmore County Commissioners commissioned a historical report just to better understand the county's history with water. The oldest component of that is the Mountain Home Irrigation District canal system. It's canal and tunnel system that was constructed in separate parts between 1887 and the 1910s. And then it was consolidated to create the Mountain Home Irrigation District in 1925. And that it says on the screen there was 14 separate ideas found by the historians to bring surface water to Mountain Home. Of these, there's still a couple that we're pursuing today, like the Snake River and bringing Mountain Home into the Boise project. Some ambitious ideas were to drill a 20-mile long tunnel through the Sawtooth Mountains and use water from the Stanley Basin. So we'll disregard that one anymore. But also twice, the Bureau of Reclamation withdrew thousands of acres of land for settlement and ownership, even into the early 2000s, but nothing has come of it. Lots of interesting history there. Then we saw a shift to groundwater. So it was known that the area was not flush with groundwater, hence more than half a century of bringing surface water to the area. But by the 1960s, we saw an uptick in groundwater permits being approved. The large driver of this was the availability of electric power and the idea that electrical pumps would be more affordable and easier to operate and maintain. It just didn't take long to realize that with a couple of decades of groundwater pumping that the basin had been over-allocated. The Center Cone Butte critical groundwater area and the Mountain Home groundwater management area that we see on the screen there were designated in the early 1980s. Yet the damage was done and the pumping still continues today. With a renewed focus, the Elmore County Commissioners are seeing the pressure of residential housing and the growth from the Treasure Valley spilling into Elmore County. It's creating great demands for domestic and municipal use on their water supplies. Over the last decade or so, the commissioners have placed a new focus on developing surface water projects for the greater Mountain Home area. And the Water Resource Board has been a partner in quite a few of those components. The one major one was the Canyon Creek recharge, that diversion recharge that diverts Canyon Creek into some large gravel pits north of Mountain Home. And then the irrigation district has received a couple of aging infrastructure grants that have been critical in addressing repairs to this vital surface water supply system for the area. And finally, the board's investment and expansion of the Treasure Valley groundwater model into that Western Snake Plain aquifer model that we spam was greatly appreciated and seen as a huge step forward for the area. With all of this momentum, I want to note that the county has also begun renewed stakeholder negotiations, partnerships with the Mountain Home Air Force Base and the newly elected legislative delegation. The county is taking a proactive approach on the legislative front. So this slide, it's helpful to have just a geographic layout of the area and just discuss some of the key components of how water functions in the region. I don't need to belabor how the Boise system works, but you'll see with that lighter blue line at the top, we have the Boise River system with the 3 major reservoirs feeding water into the Treasure Valley, and the white peaks behind there give an idea of the size of watershed that feeds that amazing system. And then you see a little darker patch there below the Little Camas Reservoir note. That's the Bennett Mountains that drains into the Little Camas Reservoir. Where that little arrow is, you can't quite see it, but with about 20,000 or 24,000 acre feet. That'll feed down through the Mountain Home Irrigation District system in that brighter blue line north of town there to the diversion to where it goes out to shareholders of the district. It's this leaky canal system is recognized as likely the key reason that the region does have as much recharge as it does. It's vital to how water works in the area. Highlighted in yellow at the bottom, of course, the Snake River with the Air Force Base out there to the west. And the area isn't without some other surface water, including some imports. Minor in-basin streams include Canyon Creek that I mentioned, Bennett Creek, Cold Springs. There's some existing Snake River diversions that have high and low lift pumping for irrigation. Little Camas Reservoir is actually a diversion from the South Fork Boise watershed. And of course, the Mountain Home Irrigation Project, Mountain Home Sustainable Water Supply Project will soon be pumping out of the Snake. And then, as I mentioned, the groundwater is the single source of drinking water for all residents in the area at this point. And it's also the primary source of irrigation. It offers supplemental irrigation when the Little Camas water runs out each year. It's a limited supply there. We have a three-phase approach to the Aquifer Stabilization Project. And the components of these three phases aren't likely new to this group. The phased approach is new. We'll review these three phases, starting with phase one. It's a system everybody's familiar with the Aging Infrastructure Grant Program. It's the Mountain Home Irrigation Canal and Tunnel System Repair and Reliability. So this canal system's over 120 years old, 13 miles long, includes 15 tunnels, some of which were hand dug. It delivers water from Little Camas, as I mentioned, which in the Boise River Basin, and it would otherwise spill into Anderson Ranch. So this system brings crucial surface water delivery and recharge to the Mountain Home area. Leadership within both Elmore County and the city have recognized this and have matched hundreds of thousands of dollars for those aging infrastructure grants in the last couple of years. In 2023, the system saw a catastrophic collapse of tunnel number 9 during irrigation season. The collapse underscored the urgent infrastructure needs of this and the criticality of this system on the region's aquifer supply. And while the aging infrastructure grants are providing critical immediate repairs and providing solutions now, in the interim, this level of funding and local match is just not sustainable to make this critical water delivery infrastructure viable for the next 120 years. So the irrigation district, with all parties involved, are looking for more comprehensive solutions. The Snake River water delivery is our phase 2. The county has recently received a draft water right permit for 20 CFS for year-round diversion from the Snake River. Uses include replacement of supplemental irrigation from groundwater sources and aquifer recharge. The bigger idea behind this is to swap groundwater ag users to surface water. We can put all the low flow efficient water faucets we want in Mountain Home, but it would never make a dent in the 40,000 acre foot deficit of this area. And Terry Scanlon can attest to this better than I can, but the groundwater levels just continue to drop, and the farmers and ag users are seeing they're having to deepen their wells and drop their pumps. And as they do this, they're getting into the lesser productive areas of the aquifer. And with that, they're having expensive, higher pumping costs with less production of water. These factors could be some motivation to switch them to surface water. And how that happens, where the pipeline would go, what existing infrastructure we might use, how the delivery would happen, how it could be optimized, all needs to be studied. And the county really looks forward to finalizing this water right. It's a huge step forward for the county. And then finally, we have phase 3 here. In the Mountain Home area, it's been recognized it needs multiple sources of surface water import. And now the technology's caught up with the past ideas, and it's feasible to bring water from Anderson Ranch Reservoir to the Mountain Home area. And outside of an Idaho DEQ grant, Elmore County has funded the preliminary environmental and 45% design of this phase 3 work. The county is actively working towards 60% design for proposed pump station and pipeline that would deliver water from Anderson Ranch Reservoir up to Little Camas Reservoir and down through the existing irrigation district canal. Easements for that pipeline outside of the small section of Forest Service land have been secured. And Elmore County currently has a 200 CFS flood flow water rate in Anderson Ranch. They're petitioning to secure additional storage water to bring the per acre foot cost down. So that's the 3-phased approach. And now it's kind of where do we need to go? We've identified these 3 main pieces. It's critical to the county's aquifer stabilization project that we not do just one of these. We need them all for this area to be viable for future generations. We've reviewed the irrigation canal and tunnel system being used for the aging infrastructure grants. They have and continue to be vital in sustaining these immediate needs and these immediate repairs that it needs now. However, it is recognized that it needs to be comprehensively analyzed and the existing conditions of the entire 13-mile canal system reviewed and documented rather than piecemealing these localized projects for repairs. An alternative study is needed to identify the most cost-effective permanent fixes. This could include HDPE versus steel tunnel lining, hydraulic modeling, capacity optimization of the canal, seepage testing, et cetera. The goal of the alternative study would be to produce a project prioritization list with some cost estimates and preliminary design that we could then take to larger funding sources for state and federal funding packages to do a more comprehensive project or projects. And then second, on phase 2, now that the county's on the cusp, hopefully, of getting this 20 CFS water right from the Snake River, we'll need to identify the most efficient and cost-effective use and delivery from the Snake River. This could be also accomplished through an alternative study. The NRCS has indicated that they would be a great key capital cost funder. And the goal of this alternative study would be to establish a cost-benefit framework to leverage that NRCS funding. And other funding, we've identified some lucrative Department of Defense funding that the area would qualify for. Having the base there really supports mission readiness. So these alternative studies are hard to find funding for, and the county has spent already well over $500,000 on the preliminary engineering and 60% design, or preliminary environmental, sorry, and the 60% design effort on phase 3. The county commissioners have also made significant investment along with some other expenditures on phase 2 just to pursue that 20 CFS water right, and then phase 1 matching almost nearly the same $500,000 to the irrigation district's aging infrastructure grants. The sustainability, like I mentioned, of funding through the county just isn't sustainable long-term, and they really just can't continue to bear the burden of this over-allocated basin. Benefits of the alternative studies do include that preliminary engineering and financial clarity for these next steps. It would support state and federal grant and loan applications, providing a more detailed package for these larger capital project funding packages. And they would support mitigation of the active aquifer decline by detailing that imported water replaces groundwater withdrawals and supports recharge. So investments in the county's aquifer stabilization project provide security for existing infrastructure investments. I think this is a key piece that we haven't talked about enough, but the state of Idaho and DoD have spent tens of millions of dollars on the Air Force Base Sustainable Water Supply Project. However, the base is not sustainable without the greater Mountain Home area. They do not have sufficient housing, schools, and just basic service for airmen and their families. So by investing in the water of the Mountain Home area, you're securing for funding you've already spent, the projects you've already spent, providing the nation's national security and base resilience that are so important to everybody in this state. And finally, water security is economic resilience. The county has funded an economic analysis that analyzed various scenarios, including what if a water call was happened, what if nothing was done, and what if the aquifer was stabilized. And the modeling shows billions of dollars in avoided economic loss if new supplies are developed. So in next steps, Elmore County in the irrigation district hope to be back in front of you soon with phase 1 and phase 2 proposal to help fund these alternative studies. While scopes are being actively refined, phase 1 for the irrigation district canal and tunnel system repair and reliability is estimated to cost up to $180,000. And phase 2 for the Snake River water delivery is estimated to cost up to $300,000. Considering the significant investments that the county has made and continues to make to keep moving these efforts forward, we kindly ask for some financial burden to be borne by the Water Resource Board and the state of Idaho. The board's continued support will align with the state's mission of water sustainability, economic resilience, and support of the Mountain Home Air Force Base. Madam Chairman, thank you for your time. And we'll take questions, and that's what I brought these folks for.
All right, that was an excellent presentation. Thank you for that. Committee members, are there any questions for Carrie?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Carrie, the 20 CFS, you would pump that from the snake?
Mhm.
How, for recharge or just for use?
The idea is to switch groundwater users to surface water, and we would retire, like similar to what the Air Force Base did, right? We're not taking people's groundwater rights away, but they would need to be retired.
Is there a possibility of recharge in the aquifer?
Yes, using additional when it's not in use for irrigation or ag use, absolutely. It's year-round diversion, so we'd want to get that into the aquifer via one of the existing recharge options, or maybe we look at new options. That's part of kind of the alternatives analysis.
Right now, you don't have a cost associated with that, pumping water out and putting it in a pipeline.
We don't have any of this focused on getting that water right to see if that would happen.
First things first,
And
yeah.
it did. And so now it's okay, how can we most efficiently use this water? And by taking this groundwater users off and putting them on
Right.
surface water, that is recharging
Yeah,
itself,
will
right? The
help,
best
yeah.
kind.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from committee members?
Uh,
Mark,
Madam-
Dean?
Madam Chair, this is Dean. I guess the question I have is, you've got the piece that's being looked at by the irrigation district, and the county's looking at a piece of it. So obviously the irrigation district representing the surface users, is the county gonna hold the burden for the groundwater users, or do you have a mechanism in place that they do their share other than the county?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Terry, would this be better? Maybe better spoken.
Yeah, but I don't think we haven't answered that
Yeah.
quite yet until we do an alternative study.
Can I interrupt for just a second? Is it possible that you could come to the microphone that Jennifer's, so the online people can hear us as well? Thank you.
Sure, Terry Scanlon, HDR Engineering. We don't have an answer for that quite yet until we do an alternative study. Both the WeSpan model that's in development will show who the beneficiaries are of these actions. And we'll have costs for both capital and operations to determine who should pay and justify that.
And yeah, I'll add to that a little bit. I think it's being seen as really everybody's problem in the area. And so the irrigation district being surface water focused, they're also concerned with groundwater. A lot of them supplement with groundwater when Little Camas runs out. So it's being seen as a collective issue here, and everybody's kind of in it together.
Thank you.
Any other questions from committee members? I'm sorry? Yes. Yeah. Any questions from other board members? Brian?
Madam Chairman, Carrie, I don't want to get into the weeds real brief on this, but the inflows to Little Camas Reservoir compared to 100 years ago, are they holding up reasonably well, or are they suffering like a lot of other areas are?
From, yes, board member Olmstead. So what we understand is that from anecdotal information from locals like Eric and Bud over here, that Little Camas has seen significantly less runoff, and it used to be an amazing fishery, and which draws down so low now. It's not. So
They agreed to deny it. So,
Well, that's good.
yeah, he came in.
Got it. I can't when I have the presentation. Okay, so it used to receive more water than it is currently.
yeah, anecdotally, that's historically what we're hearing. Although there's not necessarily the flows that we have 100 years ago, but.
Madam Chairman, this is Mark.
Yes, Mark, go ahead.
I may have missed this, but I understand there's 15 separate tunnels in this system. How many feet of tunnels are there in the system in the 13 miles of canal?
Yes. This is Eric Orr with the Mountain Home Irrigation District. There's just under 10,000 feet of tunnels.
Thank you.
And then also there's just under 1,000 feet of flumes, cement flumes.
Okay, any other questions? So at this time, we're not expecting any
Madam Chair.
action from the finance.
I do have a question.
Oh,
Ms. Hill, when you said that the tunnel collapsed, has it been repaired? Is it still leaking? What's going on with that tunnel? Is the
Yes.
water being delivered to the Mountain Home Irrigation District?
It was fixed under an emergency authorization for funding. Was that the county?
I think Eric could
Yeah, Eric, you want to
give them a brief on where the tunnels are at, you know, as a whole.
Yeah, so in 2023, July of 2023, one of the Tunnel 9 collapsed would be about 200 feet in from the entrance, and it caved in. It was about 20 feet in length. So the debris, we couldn't get it out of there, so we end up shoving a 48-inch pipe through there. When we got it water up and going, we were only off for about 7 days.
How was it funded?
So it's funded, the county was part of the funding, the Mountain Home Irrigation District, and through a grant from IDWR.
a follow-up question on that. So the pipe is still in there and that's the fix?
Yep, it's
completed.
The steel, that was the steel pipe.
Yep.
Okay. No. Okay.
No action on this one today.
Okay, so there's no action on this one today, but we look forward to seeing you back.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
We did get a chance, the board did get a chance to tour that area a few years ago. And it was, the storyline hasn't changed. Unfortunately. Yes. Okay, next item on the list is the Milner Dam Rehabilitation Project.
Madam Chair, Justin Ferguson will lead off with this one.
Thank you, Elmore County.
Yes.
Afternoon, thanks for having me. There we go. This afternoon, we got a request for consideration from Milner Dam Inc. to add a rehabilitation of the emergency spillway to the regional sustainability list. Let's see. At this time, I can run you through the project and their proposal, and it looks like we have Jay Barlogi online. And then at the end of it, we do have a funding resolution. They're looking for 1.5 million in funding for design work. So to get started. So the project is kind of made up of three major components: the service spillway, the emergency spillway, and then concrete repair. So the first part, and actually I can jump down here because they did provide some pictures for us. So back in the 90s, there was a high water year and a bunch of flows came through the emergency spillway and caused some damage to the plunge pool. So part of this project is looking at a redesign of this plunge pool, and it's kind of outlined here in red to look at how it can be rebuilt, the damage to it, and how it can be kind of armored moving forward. They provided a design of what it looks like now, and then a couple of concept ideas that they're pursuing with Jacobs. As they get further along the design, they'll kind of settle into one of the best possible course of action here. The second part of the project would be work at the emergency spillway decking. So, oh, and I think that was Jay jumping in. Jay, did I just talk over top of you? Okay. They provided a picture of the emergency spillway decking. So part of this project and an issue they've had through FERC inspections is that they have this decking up on top of the emergency spillway, and it's just made up of wood. And they've run into issues trying to move equipment across the spillway to get work done because the equipment is pretty large. So looking at rebuilding the spillway and adding like a nice steel decking so they're able to get machinery across and do work from both sides of the dam. The last part, and I'll jump down here real quick. The last part of the project is to fix some concrete issues just down from the radial gates at the spillway. So after this last inspection, FERC found hairline cracks. You can kind of see them here with the yellow arrow, and then this zone of delaminated concrete that they're running into. The last big component of this project would be to work on that concrete and repair it and make sure everything's good in the future. A little bit of background. They are working with Jacobs. They do have a cost estimate. Right now, the best estimate they have is 9.065 million. As they work through design and get closer to a final design, they've got to submit the plans for construction to FERC for approval before any work's allowed to be done on the dam. So the idea is to get all the design work, get the plans to FERC, wait for their approval, and then start construction once they get the green light from FERC. Ideally within 18 months. 18 months is the estimate for design, and then another 18 months for FERC approval. Right after that, barring any unforeseen, anything unforeseen, they'd be able to start work. And let's see, I can pause there for any questions, and then we also have Jay online too. And Jay, if there's anything I missed.
Jay, would you like to add anything to this?
Yeah, good afternoon, guys, and thanks for the opportunity. No, I think, this is a project that we've been struggling with for many, many years. As Justin said, in 1997, I think there was just under 40,000 cubic feet per second that moved through that emergency or through that service spillway, and it just eroded all of the material out from under it. We recognized that there was an issue right away, and we got equipment in there and cleaned the debris and opened the channel up. And we've monitored that ever since to make sure that it's not continuing to erode further underneath the dam. But in 1992, we rebuilt the structure, and we worked with Idaho Power, who helped finance it and put a power production facility in there, which brought FERC into the equation. And so in recent years, technology has got a little bit better. They did a LiDAR flight on the Snake River below Milner Dam and discovered that there were some homes built within what would be the floodplain should there be a problem with Milner Dam. which took our hazard ranking from a moderate hazard dam to a high hazard dam. About the same time, there were a couple of dam failures in the western United States, which really heightened FERC's concerns over situations like this. Some of the dam failures that had been experienced in the western United States were related to issues that they had already made the determination weren't really of big concern. And then it turned out that they were of big concern, unfortunately. So they have determined that this is a bigger concern than they had originally thought. And they really want us to do something with this. We, as the dam owners, want to be responsible dam owners, and we want to do the right thing as well. So we have been working for the last many years to get the engineer design on this and to attempt to secure some funding to help us do this. Original estimates were potentially around $15 million by the time we get this all done. We have made multiple trips back to Washington, D.C. to try to secure some federal funding. There is some CARE Act legislation that we're trying to get worked into the equation that could possibly provide an avenue for some federal funding for this as well. We had Representative Simpson staff here a couple of weeks ago to tour it. They've been here multiple times. Senator Rish's staff was here last week to tour this project and look at it. They have been here. Some of them have been here multiple times. We continue to secure federal funding for this as well. But nonetheless, we want to be responsible dam owners. We think Milner Dam is one of the most important structures in the state of Idaho. Many of you are probably tired of hearing me say this, but several years ago, the Idaho Statesman reporter said it really well when he said, "There is no question that the economic engine that drives the state of Idaho is agriculture. But at the epicenter of that economic engine, you will find Milner Dam." Milner Dam provides water to about a little over 550,000 acres of really good ag land down there. Very, very important to the state of Idaho and the cash receipts that are a result of the agriculture in this area. So, as I said, these are projects that need to be done. The emergency spillway, it's not just the wooden decking there. The concrete structures that support that wooden decking have got some issues there as well. Much of that concrete is early, original 1900 concrete. And a lot of that 1900 concrete has been added onto. There is angle iron on top that is embedded in the concrete, which was a poor idea at the time, because now the freeze-thaw conditions that result around that angle iron have caused that concrete to erode. That provides some concern, provides some structural instabilities there. There are also on the fronts of all of those piers, and I would point out, I think there's like 86 of those piers out there. And on the fronts of those, there are angle irons embedded there that used to hold the old stop logs as well. And many of those are seeing a lot of deterioration in the angle iron, and particularly at that freeze thaw line where the top of the reservoir elevation sets. That's a fuse plug design where those plugs are designed to if water gets too high in the reservoir, it will flow over the top of those fuse plugs and erode that gravel out, and then the fuse plug is allowed to drop. Those fuse plugs are just sitting in there. They're lightly bolted in there with thin rubber strips holding them in place. And of course, the water pressure behind that will allow that thin rubber to tear. A lot of that thin rubber has been torn for years because of it exists there at that freeze thaw line on the top of the reservoir. In order to do the hard armor on the plunge pool, we're going to have to get equipment across this. FERC is concerned about the issues here anyway, so we want to get that taken care of so that it can help us facilitate the repair on the plunge pool. So again, this is a project that we've been working on for many years. We've made many trips back and forth to Washington, D.C. to talk to our federal folks, and we're looking for some help. As Justin said, we think 1.5 will get us through the design phases of this, and then we continue to move forward. Part of our desire to be on the regional sustainability list with this project is it provides opportunity for the resource board to help it secure some federal funding if those opportunities may arise. So again, we're just attempting to move forward, attempting to be a responsible dam owner and attempting to protect the integrity of Milner Dam, which we think is, again, one of the most important structures in the state of Idaho.
All right, thank you. So we have a draft resolution in our packet here to consider at the board meeting for 1.5 million out of the water management fund for the study. Is there any questions for either Justin or Jay before we request a motion?
Madam Chair, Jay, this is Jeff Raybould. You have substantial ongoing O&M. It sounds like you've done quite a bit of repair work on the facility over time. How much do you typically spend annually on average just to upkeep what you've got, let alone talking about improvements?
Oh, you're catching me really blind, Jeff. I don't know what the total annual repair that we spend there is. Our actual income there is very, very minimal annually. And most of that for the past many years has been set aside and put into CDs in preparation for this project if we can ever get it off and running. That delaminated concrete on the service spillway, we have done some repairs on that in the past. Usually they've been a relatively small section and not a huge expense. We've got one of the piezo wells right now that we're trying to get a drill plan put together so that we can get it replaced, re-drilled and replaced with new automation. There are 6 piezometer wells on the dam, and we're working right now to get all of those done. And there is some pretty significant expense associated with those as well. I don't know if that did a very good job.
Well, let me try it a different way, if I might, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Jay, I mean, how many entities draw water out of Milner? Is it 5 or 7?
Yeah, we've got, of course, the Twin Falls Canal Company is here. Right across the river, the Northside Canal Company diverts their water out of Milner. AFRD2 and the Bigwood Canal over on the other side of the Northside Canal Company divert their water out of Milner Dam. Across the reservoir, the Milner Irrigation Pump Company pumps water out and into gravity canals on the south side of the river, and then A&B Irrigation up above pumps water out of there as well. We also provide water to Southwest Irrigation through our diversion structures.
And so you have a mechanism in place where you assess those entities, or you have some kind of a way for them to provide funding to take care of the ongoing O&M of the facility?
No, sir. Actually, Milner Dam and MDI is owned by the Northside Canal Company and the Twin Falls Canal Company. 6/11 and 5/11 respectively. There is no mechanism to assess the other entities that I mentioned.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair, maybe I should know this, but who owns Milner Dam? Who is the entity that owns it? Does anybody know?
MDI, Milner Dam Incorporated, owns Milner Dam. MDI is a subsidiary of Twin Falls Canal Company and the Northside Canal Company.
So they're responsible for the upkeep and all that of the dam?
Yes, sir.
No entity like Idaho Power plays a role in there at all, huh?
No, sir.
Okay. That's good to know. I just didn't not know that.
Yes, Brian.
Madam Chair, I can clarify a couple things. I know, I was manager of operating Milner Dam for many years, and the annual maintenance is well over 200,000. It varies depending on what FERC says you got to do that year, but over 200,000 a year, and we've never been able to get any federal help because it is a private dam rather than just Bureau of Reclamation, and they would cover 50% of the cost typically. So. And the other important thing that I'm sure Jay meant to mention is that the Water Resource Board also diverts well over half of our recharge out of Milner Dam, and we can't do that without having, the reservoir up at a near full level, so. So it's important for, for the Water Resource Board, the state, and a lot of groundwater users too.
Thank you for that, Brian. I missed that.
You're covering a lot of ground, Jay.
All right. I'm not hearing any other questions. So with that, is there a motion to make a recommendation to the full board?
Madam Chair, I'll go ahead and make that motion that, concerning Milner Dam, that 1.5 million
Yes.
to the full board.
Madam Chairman, this is Mark. I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved in second. Is there additional discussion?
Well, just a clarification. I think what we're doing is we're making a recommendation to add this to the regional sustainability list
Yes.
and provide the 1.5 million in funding for the
Yes.
engineering. Is that, just so I get that right in my mind, Madam Chairman?
And is that your motion, Dale?
That would be the correct motion, yes.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
Sure,
Thanks for
that-
clarification. Yes. Okay. Okay, all,
And just to jump in really quick, we do have a resolution earlier for your consideration that will add both the Milner project and the Nampa Meridian project to the
I
sustainability
did
list.
see that.
Yep.
Thank you.
So
So let's hold this motion. Let's table this motion for now. Can we do that?
Madam Chair, I see no reason with going ahead with emotions at this point. We may rework resolutions for Friday, based on the motions. We can proceed with this motion.
Okay. All right, so the motion before us is to add the Milner Dam Rehabilitation Project to the Regional Sustainability List and recommend to the full board funding of 1.5 million for a study. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you for that. Okay, Nampa Meridian.
Yes, Nampa Meridian Irrigation District, Reidenbach Canal, diversion modernization project. Neely Miller will lead off with this one.
Okay.
Good afternoon again, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Patton. Just briefly, I'll highlight that at the end of this item, staff would ask that you make a funding recommendation for the board to consider later this week. Just briefly, a project proposal was received from Nampa Meridian Irrigation District to be added to the Regional Water Sustainability List, as well as for some funding. And this project is to replace, modernize, and automate Nampa Meridian's Boise River diversion and headworks, the Reidenbach Canal diversion specifically. Representatives are here from Nampa Meridian, and they're going to provide a presentation and answer any questions you have. And I also have prepared a draft resolution, and attached in the materials is the full project proposal that was submitted to the board. And with that, I would hand it off to Lori Gray from Nampa Meridian Irrigation District.
Thank you, Neely. Madam Chair, Board, thank you for the time today. I would like to recognize that Donald Barksdale, our board president, is here with us. He represents precinct in Boise. We have Will Patterson, who represents the precinct in Meridian. At some point, Clinton Klein may be joining us. He was doing farm stuff today. And then Greg Curtis, who many of you know as the water superintendent for Nampa Meridian, but we've recently reorganized. So he will be directly overseeing construction of this project as our capital programs manager. So thanks to them for their support. So I'll walk through this. I really appreciate all the time folks have spent going through this presentation. It really is an important project for Treasure Valley. Next slide. As many of you know, we do take water out of the Boise River. We run it across Boise, across Meridian, and into Nampa. We pull out about 144,000 acre feet, but because of the use of drains, which we have 59,000 acres of drainage, we are able to deliver somewhere in the neighborhood of about 200,000 acre feet because of the reuse, which is very beneficial. We're feeding about 46,000 acres, which include farms, parks, residential. Next slide. The current headworks diversion, almost 100 years old, the concrete is deteriorating, seepage is occurring around the walls. It requires manual insertion of stop logs to check up the diversion pool. Now, I will note that we have new radial gates that we installed in the 80s. They're fine. We're not touching those. This is the infrastructure that we need to check the water up to get it into the canal. Next slide. So the objectives and the benefits here, we're replacing this infrastructure. We want it to last for another 100 plus years. By managing this elevation pool with automation, we're able to save water. We will have a safer environment for our employees who are out there in the middle of flows, in the middle of trees, pulling stop logs, frankly, very, very dangerous. It will also be safer for recreationalists. It will reduce the amount of resources that Nampa Meridian requires to operate the system. Right now, if we get a call that flows are bumping up, we've got to run across town. And if you haven't driven from Nampa to Boise lately, I would encourage you to not do it because it'll take about 50 minutes. The surface water delivery reduces the reliance on Treasure Valley Aquifer. And I think this is an important piece to really understand. If you don't have 200,000 acre feet of surface delivery across this valley, what's going to happen? People are going to start punching holes in the aquifer, or they're going to start turning on their hoses. We've already heard from the city of Nampa and the city of Caldwell. Their infrastructure can't handle that type of stress. So protecting that Treasure Valley aquifer really is a regional issue. Because of the intake screens that we're putting on, we will actually be able to keep fish, adult fish, out of the canal, which is not something that we've been able to do in the past. And it will improve the overall health of the Boise River. Next slide. So one of the key things that I want to make sure everybody understands is the amount of conflict that we're avoiding by actually putting this new infrastructure in. There's current easement holders. There's 3 conservation easements on, depending on where you're standing and how you look at it. But if you're looking downstream on the right-hand side of the river, we have the city of Boise that owns the land, and we have 3 conservation easement holders through there. And if you look at our route to get in to do maintenance on that side of the river, we kind of meander and miss a few trees and go over a hill and a little wetland. As the city develops that park and the conservation easement holders develop their plan, they are not going to be happy with us forging through their property. So with this project, we've been able to work with all 4 of those groups. We have a straight through road access for our future maintenance. We also have been able to come to an agreement with the city of Boise. We're developing a staging area, which they will ultimately use as the Alta Harris parking lot. So it saves the city money. We're working very actively with Ada County Highway Division. For those of you that are out of town, from out of town, you can kind of see up there in the right-hand corner a bridge. That bridge was shut down for a period of time recently and caused quite a lot of chaos. The Ada County has decided that they need to replace that bridge, and so we're actively working with them. We've been able to go ahead and give them at no charge the modeling that we've done on the river, which they're bringing into their engineering designs. Idaho Fish and Game and the recreationalist. We've worked with Idaho Fish and Game on the front end for our intake screens. As we finish this project and we take out those old piers, they will oversee how we take out the piers to minimize any tripping hazards. There's a lot of fishermen that run up and down this area. We talked about City of Nampa and Caldwell infrastructure. There has been in the past Barber Dam operation hiccups. And that, at least in one case, dried up a portion of the river. So with this automation, we will be able to be much more responsive. because of the surface and the drains, by making sure we can continue that delivery, we're minimizing conflict with other surface water users that use that drain water. And then, of course, protecting the groundwater. And we're also protecting our surface water rights. Next slide. Progress to date, we've made a lot of progress. We have RSCI, Record Steel and Construction Incorporated, on contract. They're our general contractor. They're amazing. We've been very pleased with them. We've completed all of our environmental compliance, with the exception of a building permit from the city of Boise for our control building. We just completed our procurement process, about 90%. I have one work package that still needs to go out for bid. Very pleased with how the bids came in. The final design will be delivered this week. We are negotiating, and hopefully the board will approve by next Tuesday, our gross maximum price. So that is the amount that the contractor can charge us for this project. That's the top end amount. We will have all of the subs awarded by the end of September, and we'll begin construction on October 8th. We do currently have a groundbreaking set with the governor on the 14th of October. Next slide. Project schedule, we've scheduled this all around irrigation. We want to make sure that we're not doing anything to interrupt irrigation. So we'll start construction in October through March. That will be the left-hand side of the river. It includes the intake structure, the sediment. It includes the crest gate structure. And our plan is to get those two 40-foot crest gates installed before we start the next irrigation season. We'll then shut down construction. We'll irrigate for 2026. We'll pick back up in October. We'll finish the other half of the river, that OG Weir. And then we will shut down construction, and we will operate 2027 irrigation year using the new infrastructure. Make sure that it's working well. And then once we have confidence there, October of 27, we'll go in, remove the piers, and we're done. Next slide. The early project cost estimate was $13.3 million. And you'll see on this chart that we did receive some federal Water Smart money based on that 13.3 estimate. We received 4.7 million, or 35% from the feds. We did receive a grant. It was a combined round 1, round 2 aging infrastructure, which totaled 28%, and Nampa Meridian was prepared at 37% of the project. What we know based on the 60% design is we're at over 20, it's just over 21 million, but we're doing a lot of things in-house that we're not going to seek reimbursement for. So that 20.9 million that you see at the top of that bottom chart, that is just the part of the project we will be seeking reimbursement from. With that new cost estimate and the current grants, the way they're structured, the state of Idaho will only be presenting 18% of that project. Nampa Meridian will have to figure out 59%. Next slide. Why did the cost increase? Those costs were very preliminary. It was early on. Nampa Meridian needed to know that there was money out there to help them with the project. The complexity of the design as it evolved. Early estimates did not include all aspects of the project. And then probably the most significant is the cost of labor and supplies in the valley. It's just outrageous right now. Next slide. So the funding request is this: 50% we would like to get on the priority list, and 50% for a total of $10,451,000. That would put the state at 32%. I'm sorry, that would put the state at 50%. That would put Nampa Meridian at 27%, with the feds funding 23%. Next slide. I'm going to show you this option, and I want to walk through it because I know there are some issues with having multiple state grants for a particular project. And so the proposal is this: we stop the grant, the aging infrastructure grant, in 25, and we move to a new grant that's based on the 50% cost share. So the way the numbers work, that 2.56 is what we've spent to date on the project that's reimbursable. And that means that from the state, we have we're waiting for our last payment, but we will have with this last payment pulled $854,000. That leaves 2.8 million of that original $3.6 million grant. So if you stop the grant and you do a new grant under the priority list, the project costs remaining are 18.3 million. At 50%, the new grant would be $9.1 million. Now you'll see that total state funding at the bottom, 10.023, is about $400,000 less than the 10.45 million that I have above that I took from the earlier slide. And the reason for that is because we've already pulled this 854,000 at 33%. So bottom line is with a $9.1 million new grant, we will be receiving from the state just less than 50%. So any questions on that? I know that's a bit complicated.
Oh,
No, okay, next slide.
okay.
I just a couple more pieces, Madam Chairman. So timing, I think this is important to the state. If we started a new grant for the 9.1, by the end of December, we will pull 20% for reimbursement. By the December 2026, we will pull another 49% for a total of 69% of the funding. And then by March of 27, we will pull an additional 23%. So bottom line is by March of 27, we will have pulled 94% of the funding. It will be expended. That last October to December timeframe, as we finish up, there will be a little left. Next slide. This is really a summary. The main thing I want to hit on this, and I won't bore you with all the details, but the main thing I do want to hit is that by the state engaging with us on this, we are not passing cost burden on to patrons, which will be really helpful, but also it allows Nampa Meridian to address some other really important aging infrastructure issues that we have in the district. Next slide. We think it's a good project for the state. Compliance is complete. General contractors on board. Subcontractors are going to be contracted soon. And you will have 96% expenditure within 2 years. I will note, that was my last slide. I will note one last thing. I mentioned earlier that we are negotiating the gross maximum price with the contractor. That will happen by next Tuesday. With the contracts that we've seen coming in, they've looked good, better than we expected. And so this gross maximum price will probably come down just a little bit. So what I would recommend, if the board is so inclined, is to look at that just under 50% funding. But then as we start working on the grant, we can use that gross maximum price as the actual funding amount. So that we're not tying up state money. The other thing that's beneficial with this approach is we're releasing over $2 million back to AIG that you can use on other projects. I'll stop there, Madam Chair.
Okay.
It's a lot, sorry.
Nope, that's good. That's good. It's a big project. Are there any questions from the committee members, Finance Committee? Any from any other board members?
Madam Chair, just quickly, and I think this is more of a question for staff than it is for Nampa Meridian. Is the preferred option to just stop on the aging infrastructure grant and then convert this into a regional sustainability project? Or do we want this to be a regional sustainability project that we fund 50% with and Nampa Meridian reimburse the aging infrastructure grant account for what they've taken out so far? What's the cleanest way to do that? Do we want to have this, if this is going to convert into a regional sustainability project, would it not be better to just fund it as such?
Madam Chair, Jeff, that would be staff's preferred option, just so we don't have multiple contracts, that have to be managed.
Well, I guess what I'm thinking is I'm a little concerned about creating the precedent where we fund a regional sustainability project and then we add an aging infrastructure grant to that. We have multiple grants for one project. If we do recognize something as a regional sustainability project, in my mind, it would be cleaner and better long-term to do those as regional sustainability projects and not as aging infrastructure projects.
Yes, I didn't understand. I understood that we were going to stop the aging infrastructure grant, cancel it out, and then convert the remaining funding to a regional sustainability project. That's your preferred alternative. Is that correct?
Madam Chair, Nampa Meridian doesn't have a preference on approach as long as there's a check. So we will reimburse $854,000 if that's what the state prefers. I will note that we were originally shooting for the regional sustainability list back in 22, but because the project cost was so low and we received the AIG, we were taken off the list. So however the state wants to do it, we're flexible.
Yeah, I think we can probably work it so that the amount that's already been dispersed, can roll over into a new regional water sustainability contract.
Reclassify
Yes.
the expenditures to
Right.
date as part of the regional sustainability
Correct.
project.
The
Correct.
grants would essentially close.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think we can make that work such that there's one contract between the water board and the Meridian Irrigation District and not multiples.
Okay, that's the way I understood it too.
Yeah. I think that's what we would prefer. Yes.
And I think the request is that new grant would be for the $9,169.47, and that is.
I think the grant,
Has to be
the regional water sustainability grant needs to be for 10 million. But internally, we need to account for the 854,000 that has been expended. And that will come from a 10 million total. And then we'll show that 854 back in the aging infrastructure grant account.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I can bring this up again in the water management account. We have talked a bit with fiscal about that may be something that staff would like to run to ground a bit in terms of what is easiest in terms of rolling something over. So I feel allow us a little bit of latitude to research that going forward. But otherwise, yeah, I think I understand what you're suggesting.
And worst case scenario, we can trade checks.
It's not that easy.
We'll get it figured out.
Yes. Okay. Yes, and so today, for this discussion for this committee meeting, we're looking for a recommendation to add this project to the regional sustainability list.
Correct.
And funding.
And the funding piece.
Funding piece.
Total of the
10,023,258.
Yes.
258.
Yes, to include amounts that have already been dispersed under the aging infrastructure grant.
Yes. Okay. That'll be reclassified as
Right.
regional sustainability.
Credit
Okay.
for all those savings that Laura's gonna get, right?
They're not understanding.
All right, so is there a motion to that effect?
Madam Chair, I move that we add the Nampa Meridian project as a regional water sustainability project to the project list, and that we recommend funding to the full board to consider for 10 million and change.
Okay. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Okay, so it's been moved and second to add this project to the regional sustainability list and to fund it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks to everyone.
Yes, and thank you for all of you for coming.
Thank you. Appreciate your time and your attention.
Okay. Now on to item number 5, the water management account spending plan.
And I'm gonna turn this over to Cynthia to walk through the water management account spending plan.
Okay. Thank you. All right, Madam Chair and committee members, yeah, I think we're starting to wrap things up, and I think you can appreciate now why we put the spending plans at the end of the meeting, because we wanted you all to have a chance to listen to these proposals. And then we can talk through how this would be incorporated into the spending plan. So I apologize that you didn't have a version of this in your materials. That's why, because we had a number of these kinds of actions that were still before the board, and we were still working through with the applicants. But for our purposes today, I'd like to walk through a spreadsheet that includes the spending plan, and then this will be before you again on Friday, along with a resolution to adopt the plan and including some other actions. So to begin with, you've seen this list before. This is the appropriations that since 2019 that have been applied to the water management account. But there are a couple of changes here. As Brian Patton mentioned earlier in the meeting, the governor's executive order was issued recently that requires reduction of the general fund appropriations by 3%. And as you've already discussed, that applies to a couple of things in the water management account, and you'll hear more about this on the secondary fund in a moment. So for the purposes of this discussion, I've highlighted here that the $30 million, which is the first year of the ongoing $30 million appropriated under House Bill 445, will be reduced from $30 million to $29,100,000. And then the flood grant appropriations, which we haven't shown in this list in the past, but have gone ahead and added here. You've been receiving those appropriations since FY 2019. And for 2026, that appropriation, which was $1 million, will be reduced. And that is incorporated into this total here, and I will show that again a little later. This also includes some interest that you've received both from the state treasury and from the water project loan interests. So moving into, let's see here, I'm going to reduce this just a little so you can see. So what I've included here today for discussion purposes is a list of the projects on the left. The budgeted amount, which is the amount that we've traditionally put into the spending plan or shown in the spending plan. But we've also shown here in this right-hand column the funds that are committed by the board as of the beginning of this month by resolution. So in other words, the board has authorized actual expenditure of funds for those projects as opposed to just setting aside funds through the budget. So in this list, you've seen this list in the past, but we've gone ahead and included the projects that you discussed today in anticipation of your actions. So based on the motions that you've made today, we've added Milner Dam Rehabilitation Project in the amount of $1.5 million. Again, that's an amount that is now budgeted, and once the resolution is passed, will be authorized for expenditure. We've also added the Nampa Meridian Irrigation District project that is in the amount of, as you just described, $10 million, $10 million and change. I will probably revisit that. We have, I guess, credited back some of those funds under the aging infrastructure. We may need to clarify the amount that was discussed, and we'll be ready for that at the board meeting. I think there were a couple of nuances there that, again, we just want to clarify before you approve the budget on Friday. The rest of these budgeted items and commitments have been in place for some time, so no change to those. But again, I'll just note that a few of these projects are also have ARPA funding tied to them, so they're eligible for ARPA funding. That, of course, just includes the Anderson Ranch Dam raised, Lewiston Orchards Exchange Project, and the Mountain Home Air Force Base project. And then we also have started to note here projects, or at least budgeted items that also include funding that supports ESPA stabilization and would fall under that ESPA Regional Water Sustainability Project. And the reason that I'm highlighting that here is to note that while the board is targeting the $30 million this year towards ESPA stabilization type projects, you are also committing significant funding from other areas in the water management account to support ESPA projects that go well beyond the $30 million. So as an example, you have funding set aside for statewide recharge infrastructure, and $11 million of that has been committed to date for ESPA related projects. So jumping down to the ESPA regional water sustainability projects, I've started lumping those together. So now this includes the funding that was set aside under the governor's direction last year, $10 million in total for ESPA improvement projects and reach gain improvement projects. To date, the board has not committed any of that funding. Under the FY 2026 earmark for the $30 million ongoing appropriation, that's something we'll want to discuss a little more today. You've already brought this question up. That is subject to the 3% reduction, which reduces that total for this year down to $29,100,000. And I'd like to talk just a bit about the way that the board budgeted those funds for this last year in the spending plan that you passed in May. Recommend a few changes to that, but also to discuss how you may want to account for that 3% cut based on the governor's executive order. So in your previous budget, you had budgeted the $1 million for measurement and monitoring support grants. You had budgeted $4 million for aquifer recharge infrastructure, but we're recommending that the board consider increasing that in part because you're getting a lot of requests for projects, or you have potential projects out there. To date, $5.2 million of that has been committed. So we see opportunities for recharge project development that spans those two board districts between districts 3 and 4, which is part of the requirement of that earmark, is that you split those funds between those two districts. So recharge infrastructure provides you an opportunity to do that. The board set aside $20 million for conversion projects. And as you've heard from Neely Miller today, we've received over $18 million in projects to date. The Finance Committee is recommending for approval. So we're not recommending a change to that budgeted amount. But you also had the Surface Water Operational Efficiencies Program. You had budgeted $5 million for that program. We're recommending that you consider reducing that amount. You've already committed about $1.9 million for projects with AFRD2 as well as Twin Falls Canal Company. The Twin Falls Canal Company project, if you recall, is more on the order of $26 million. And so the board authorized expenditure to fill that gap from other parts of the water management account. So those are, I guess, two recommendations today for you all to consider, in addition to a discussion about how you would want to, where you might want to absorb that 3% cut. What I'm showing here, however, is we didn't take a stab at where you should take that money out of. However, based on what you've committed to date, you've committed roughly $25.9 million of $29.1 million. So you've not exceeded the $30 million commitment yet. So I guess with that, I might pause for a minute and see if there's any discussion from the committee members. in terms of how you want to manage that earmark commitment.
Okay. Does anyone have any comments or any suggestions on how we account for the 3% cut?
Madam Chair, Cynthia, you already took the 3% out of the 30 million.
That,
So what else needs to be taken out to reach the goal you want to get at?
Madam Chair and Board Member Van Stone, so you're correct that the 3% cut will only be applied to this $30 million earmark and the flood grants. So what we need is, I think, to see a reduction of $900,000 from the $30 million earmark. And that could come from any one of these line items as you see fit.
So you want to make up that difference with, you're not going to keep the 29.1?
Yes, Mr. Van Stone. So yeah, so in total, the board will want to limit its commitments to 29.1. That's correct. And so just curious to know where you want to reduce the budgeted amount.
So Cynthia, the groundwater to surface water conversion projects, most of that 18 million is in Region 3 or District 3 for the water board. Is that correct?
That is correct, Madam Chair. Yes.
And are we anticipating a project from Region 4 that we want to keep that remainder available?
Madam Chairman, I think we are anticipating additional grant applications for conversion projects and they would originate in District 4. I think we have the ability to look at other areas of funding within the water management account to accommodate those requests. My thoughts is that if we want to make everything match, if we want to, I was thinking taking 3% across the board, but then we'd have to wrestle with what to do with the conversion grant applications. But if we trimmed the conversion grant monies back to 18,657, 827, and then prorated the rest out amongst those other categories, it looks like we would have room in those other categories to absorb that. And maybe, I don't know, what's the feeling on the measuring and monitoring support grant? When do those applications due?
Madam Chair, Chairman or Raybould, those applications are due in early October. So those will be coming in again in early October. And then we may want to circle back with you all to have a discussion about potential funding of the grants that you've received under the Bureau of Reclamation's monitoring and measurement grant, which were around 500,000, but we could revisit that at a later date after we know how many applications you've received in October.
The SPA recharge amount of 7 million that we budgeted and the funds that we've committed to 5.2 million, are we anticipating additional funds coming out of that 7 million?
So the teams, Madam Chair, members of the committee and the board, so we're looking at having more proposals by November that we're working on. So that is a possibility. Most of those right now would probably be in District 4. But there's also the 40 million up above that we could also draw upon depending on what works for you.
Madam Chair, perhaps to balance the books and make a recommendation to the full board for the adjusted water management account spending plan, maybe we just take the 900,000 out of the ESPA recharge line item, balance our books, and then, as Wes has indicated, we can draw on the other allocated funds for statewide recharge should the demand exceed the balance left in what we have allocated of this particular $30 million.
Can I offer an alternative?
Sure.
Since we have about 1.3 million left in the surface water conversion projects grant, and we are in the process of awarding those. How about if we take the 900,000 out of the groundwater to surface water conversion project grants, since Wes just told us that there are recharge infrastructure projects in District 4 coming to us in November.
It works for me. We're adjusting the numbers today. We have the ability to adjust them again should the need arise.
That's correct. It gives us
So,
an
can
opportunity to have some.
Can I ask, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, but I mean, we have a line item for aquifer ESPA improvement projects of 5 million that we haven't spent. And we've got ESPA recharge infrastructure. You know, it seems like things could fit, a project could easily fit in one or more of those categories. So there is additional money available in the budget if you get over the $7 million for recharge infrastructure. You can reach into the ESPA improvement projects too.
So, question, is part of the 5.285 considered expended? Is that for the Bingham Groundwater District Cooperative Recharge Site?
That is one of them, yes.
And we could very well, I just whispered to Brian a few minutes ago, I think we could fund that out of the near Blackfoot to Neely reach gain improvements, because that's the primary beneficiary of that particular recharge site will be improvements to the reach gains.
Absolutely.
So that would give us some additional room to maneuver within the if we take it out of the, or we can just take it out. I think we have adequate funding to cover what might be coming our way. It may require dipping into multiple buckets, but we have those buckets available.
Madam Chairman, one thing I'll point out, having fought with budgets for a while now, I suspect once we get everything in, you'll have more knowledge of how this has to be split up to hit that 50% goal. And so I'm a little suspicious we'll have to revisit this again.
Okay. So is there a motion then? I'm hearing that it might be more feasible, since we have the extra money in the water management account for ESPA recharge infrastructure, to take the 900,000 out of the ESPA infrastructure bucket for now.
Leave it like it is, what they showed it there.
I'm sorry?
Leave it like it is, what we're seeing, the 29.1.
Well, we have to take that 900,000. I'm fairly certain that the fiscal office is gonna want an account to take it out of. And they're not gonna want to create one for 3% cut. So
The 900 isn't, we've got to take the 900 out of one of the 4 items above where the
To
900.
make it work.
to make it work.
Okay, this is a question of thought. When you do a budget, you always expend everything that's budgeted every year? Or there's a carryover?
In, Madam Chair Dale, in the board's accounts, there's carryover.
Okay,
Okay, in the water management account and the secondary aquifer account, which you'll be looking at in a minute, that money can be carried over from year to year if you don't spend it all.
but does it count against you in the new budget?
No.
No.
So there's, could be money available to mix and match or whatever
Right.
you want to call it, okay.
Right.
So I think we're looking for a motion to take the 900,000 out of the ESPA recharge infrastructure account for now.
Madam Chairman, I so move.
Madam Chairman, I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Board Member Gibbs. It's been moved in second to take the 900,000 out of the SPA recharge infrastructure budget line item. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Okay,
All
thank
right.
you, Madam Chair.
We will have an updated water management account spending plan for your approval on Friday.
Excellent.
I do have one other, I guess, one other item to just show you the rest of the budget. Don't think we need to spend a lot of time on the aging infrastructure grants. You're familiar with those. Just to shorten things up, I've only showed the two rounds that you have outstanding. There were rounds 1 through 5 are not shown here, but you've committed over $52 million during that process. Flood grants are also shown here, and again, 3% will be taken out of this FY26 budget, so that'll be reduced to $970,000. You recently awarded funds for $460,000 of that of the FY26 budget, so you're covered there. And then in the remainder, I guess this is the part to highlight. So you've got a few other line items that under the loans, grants, and other potential needs category, you still have over $20 million of loans committed from the water management account. You've authorized one round of conversion projects in $13 million, and then that left a remainder of $6.6 million that will be applied to a second round. That is also some funding that could be utilized for other things. It's a statewide, at least the board originally envisioned that for statewide conversion projects. The efficiency and capacity improvements grant, $10 million of that is being applied to the Twin Falls Canal Company project. And you still have $10 million in a statewide monitoring and measurement grant that has not been implemented yet. So that money is also available. What I want to highlight right now is the way that you have everything budgeted and leaves you with a $2.2 million over budget right now of the total amount that the board has available. A question for the board right now is, clearly you have committed funding to projects that are going to be constructed or developed over a period of time. So while you've committed, for example, $10 million to the Twin Falls Canal Company, that is going to take some time to develop. My question for you is whether you want that to be balanced or whether the board and the finance committee are comfortable with a negative balance there.
Didn't we just take care of 900,000 of that problem?
So that I had incorporated into the totals up above.
Okay. So
Yeah.
how much interest per month are we making on our account balance?
Oh, that is a great question.
I just took if interest was applied May 1st and then your numbers above were as of May 1st, that would be 11 of the 12 months in the fiscal year. If you add another month, I did calculate that earlier. It's about $2 million.
$2 million. And Madam Chair, we do actually have those numbers for June, so I can look at those before the board meeting, but that certainly puts you a little closer. And again,
was the 28 for 11 months, or is that cumulative over time since the money has been deposited for the multi-years that we've had appropriation?
Yeah, it's true. It's
yeah, I think it's, yep.
Yeah, so that'd be nice. I doubt that 1 month's worth of interest is $2 million.
So again, if the board feels more comfortable, changing the budget for something like the statewide monitoring and measurement grant down to $5 million, that's something that you could do easily enough to maintain that.
Let's look and see what additional interest we've earned.
Okay.
We don't have this money spent yet. What's our anticipated interest revenue going to be in the next 6 months? Would that bring us to balance? That might be a reasonable way to approach it.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that suggestion.
Yes, and if it's posted the first of the month, maybe we could get an updated number for 4 additional months.
Yep. Yes, we will look into that, Madam Chair. Thank you. Beyond that, I think the only other thing I'll note is that we have, we're just thought it would be prudent to show that the board has committed some of the ongoing $30 million appropriation towards that Twin Fall Canal Company project. That would be about $15 million over the course of the next, from fiscal year 2027 through 2033. Just want to make sure that you're aware of that and keep track of that as we move forward. And in closing, I guess this is a helpful conversation in light of the other discussion that we had. You just heard from the Mountain Home, from the Elmore County, maybe coming back to the board requesting additional funds. So we'll go ahead and keep that in mind for the future spending plan. I will also say that we'll have a resolution before you on Friday. I have a draft version of that. I don't know that you need to look at that today. Largely, that would approve the spending plan that's recommended with some adaptations here. And we'll also add a therefore be it resolved that would authorize the board to have this spending plan updated as you make other approvals and authorizations at other board meetings, so that you don't have to revisit this every time.
Has there been any discussion or any thoughts on transferring the loans from the water management account to the secondary?
Yeah. Madam Chair, there has, and I know Justin has the details at his fingertips. We actually had one loan that was canceled. That was in about the amount of $500,000, and that has been removed from the water management account. And I'll let Justin speak to the others that are still remaining.
So left in that account right now, a loan, excuse me, a loan for $5 million for Northside Canal Company. In talking with Alan recently, we had to extend his loan application because they had put the project out to bid and there was no bidders. So they're getting ready to start work here soon. There's also Farmers Land and Irrigation Company. They have a loan out of that account. It's just under 200,000, I want to say, and they've started drawing. It's not a significant amount. And then the last remaining one that makes up the bulk of the funds is the 14.1 committed for the Raft River. And last we talked to their representatives, it looks like they may be able, they're finishing up a wetlands environmental assessment, I believe, and I can get the details for you. But they plan on being able to draw this coming summer.
Okay. Is there room in the revolving fund to transfer the 14.1 to that?
There's not.
There's not.
With the numbers I have from May, we would be able to move the $5 million loan for Northside Canal Company, but there's just not space for the raft.
Well, that'd be a big chunk.
Yeah. I would be in favor, I don't know how the rest of you feel, but I'd be in favor of moving that over and not showing a negative balance in this water management account.
That would do the trick right there.
Right there.
So, I'd like to keep that remainder a fairly low number.
Madam Chair, I will make that change for Friday, and we can add that clarification to the resolution as well.
Do we need a motion to take that action?
It would be helpful.
It's not on the agenda, but it's on this one.
It's part of the water management account spending plan. So I think you can make that motion as part of the water management account spending plan.
All right, so is there a motion to move 5 million out of the $5 million Northside loan? Is that, which loan was it? I'm sorry.
Yes, that's for Northside Canal Company.
Okay,
I so move.
okay, Dale's moved it. Is there any, 1 second? Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to move the $5 million loan for Northside from the management account, water management account, to the revolving credit account, revolving development account. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Anything more?
Nothing more, Madam Chair.
Okay, secondary fund budget.
Yeah, Wesley will handle the discussion about the secondary fund budget, Madam Chair. Madam Chairman, members of the committee, I will try and make this as efficient as I can. So in the material, there is a memo that kind of details the changes that we're talking about. I will go through them here in the budget so you can see exactly where they play in. So just as a reminder, back in May, resolution was passed for this secondary fund budget. It was resolution 18-2025. So with what Mr. Patton mentioned earlier, with the 5 million from the general fund, which if you look is row number 4 here, that had to be reduced by 3%. And so that number would change to the number that's highlighted in yellow to 4,850,000. While we had it open, there was some other changes that we would like to make to this budget to kind of account for how things have changed as we went along so far. And so the first part is in the ESP Managed Recharge Program. For the O&M, there's 2 projects. One for AFRD2, the Milepost 31 recharge site, and then the Northside Canal Company, the Wilson Canyon site. And so there's 2 projects. There's repair that needs to be done on the gates for Milepost 31, and also looking at getting power to the Wilson Canyon site, because currently those are operated manually and actually create kind of a safety hazard, and this would improve that immensely. So looking at increasing the O&M cost from 200,000 to 500,000. And so that's the first part. And I would, if there's any questions, please feel free to stop me anytime.
Madam Chair, 250K, is that Idaho power?
Yes.
If we looked at a solar battery pack?
We have, but because of the amount that they have to do, because this would work on the gates for the recharge site and the main gates that they have in the canal. And so from what the information that we've gotten, it would be a really, really large solar power to be able to handle that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So moving down, the other thing, there's some investigations that we've added. One was for the Osgood Canal. And then there's another one for studying the area around the Wilson Lake area for a new recharge site, kind of coming up with the best option there. And then there's a USGS water quality trend study, which will be talked about at the next board meeting. And that's 312,000. And that study is to look at the water quality of the aquifer and how recharge has affected that over the SBA. So those were added in, and basically just looking at adding 400,000 to the investigation. And so that would leave us 238,000 for future investigations for the rest of this fiscal year. So moving on to cloud seeding, so a big difference here is for new basins, you originally budgeted over 1.9 million for the Utah study. So that came in significantly less. And so we're looking at reducing that by 900,000. And so that would add 900,000 back into the budget. And so then some other projects is in the Treasure Valley. One is adding 50,000 for a pilot recharge project. This hasn't been defined yet, but it is something of interest out there. So that kind of puts a placeholder there for moving forward with that. And the other is hydrology is looking at a star watershed project, and really what this looks at, the total project's 100,000. It's 50,000 a year, and it's looking at basically the gains from Lucky Peak to the Star Bridge. Those haven't been looked at in numerous years, and so they want to get a better handle of what's actually going on there. And that's a very brief summary of that. And then the last change is way down at the bottom, is adding a project to the statewide surface water and aquifer monitoring. And this project is having the USGS look at peak flows from stream gauges throughout the state. The peak flows have changed. And so it's something that actually came out of the governor's water conference that was held a few years ago. And so they're starting that project and just doing this first phase of it. If I remember correctly, I believe it's 2 years, and the total cost would be 115,000. So it's raising that up from 600,000 to 715. And then ultimately the change is we go down here to the reserve for work and other priority aquifers, is that drops a little bit from 760,000 to 598,000. And so those are the changes that staff is recommending. And more than happy to stand for any questions. I know that was pretty quick.
Any questions from committee members?
You're good with these numbers then? You think you're as good as you can get?
As good as we could get, sir, with the information we have, yes.
Okay.
Well, in all
we
the
gotta
time that
go
I've
with
had on the board, oh, excuse me, Dale, go ahead.
I think we gotta go with it. I mean,
Is that a motion?
I'll make that motion. Yeah, we go ahead and use the numbers that Wes put out there for us.
The revised secondary aquifer
Yeah.
budget.
Recommendation to the full board.
Recommendation to the full board. Thank you.
There is a resolution also that should be in your materials that you can review. There's a bunch of now where therefores that talk about funds that will come, that we don't have to come back to the board for. I can bring those up if you want, but there's this thing that you passed earlier.
Okay.
Okay, so is there a second to Dale's motion?
Second.
Okay. Board member Dean and Mark, do you guys have any questions?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, thank you a lot, Wes.
You're very welcome.
I was gonna say that in all the years that I've been on the board, I think this is the first time we've actually amended the budget.
There was one other time since I've been here, but that's been it.
Before 2018.
It was.
All right, last item, or I guess item number 7, the Marsh Center irrigating company loan request. Justin.
We received a loan application from Marsh Center Irrigation Company, or Irrigating Company. I wanted to thank Wade Egan for being on. We have a representative here in case you have any questions. But the request is to continue. Last year, you all received a loan application to convert some of their open canal to a pressurized pipe system. Effectively, this loan is continuing that project a little farther down their canal system. let's see, and that was back in 2023. So the plan here for Marsh Center is they've secured funding through NRCS, and the loan will work as a bridge loan to get the work completed. So with this last loan they had held, they drew just shy of, just shy of 700,000. It was 665,000 of the available 700. And then as work was completed and NRCS was able to release funds, they paid up a big chunk of that. And I think the remainder they owe is just under $80,000 now. So the plan is to continue using that new secured funding to continue converting their canal to pipe. Jumping down here, they have offered their water rights again as collateral for this loan. Because they have paid up so much of the previous loan, we were able to spread out what they had offered last time to cover this as well. And I know that was quick. They've also provided a map, but I'm happy to stand for any questions. And then I do know that we have Wade on the line too, if anything comes up.
Mr. Egan, do you have any comments that you want to add to Justin's presentation?
Well, thank you for asking. We appreciate Justin, we appreciate the board and their help with this. We've secured an NRCS EQIP grant for 1.147 million for this project. It's another it's 22,000, almost 23,000 feet. This completes this whole project from beginning to end, and we're pretty excited about it. We just need we just need this bridge money to get this done, to fund the construction costs. We should have this completed. We want this need to be completed truthfully by spring irrigating season. So we should build that and the money back from NRCS by then and back to the board. So we probably don't need it for that long, but you never know with construction how things go, but we're pretty confident based on our last time we did this, so we can put this together in a few months with the contractor we've got. So we just need a little help to get us by. So.
Okay, any questions for either of these two on this loan? Not hearing any. Is there a recommendation motion?
Madam Chairman, this is Mark.
Yes, go ahead, Mark.
I would move that we recommend this project to the full board at the Friday meeting.
Okay.
Second.
All right, it's been moved in second to recommend approval of this loan to the full board. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Other items? Nothing?
Nothing from staff, Madam Chair.
Okay, does anyone else have any other items they want to bring before the finance committee?
Madam Chair, if I could, I had lunch with Jay a couple days ago, and I think he was talking about the Milner project getting onto the regional sustainability list. But he wasn't asking for the efficiency project to be on the, that's what I was a little confused. If he wanted, should the efficiency project be on the regional sustainability list? And he was mentioning because it might help secure federal funding. I don't know if there's.
Madam Chair, Brian, so we are considering the efficiency project as part of the ESPA Regional Water Sustainability Program. So it's a subcomponent within the ESPA Regional Water Sustainability Project.
So if he was going to apply for some federal funding for any part of it, then he could say this is on the regional sustainability list then, or?
Yes, he could.
Is that apparently adds weight to a federal application?
Yes.
All right, if there's no other items, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 We're adjourned.
All right, we'll see you in Twin Falls tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Good job, Madam Chairman.
2 o'clock?
Yes, 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon at the Hilton Garden in Twin